there's no doubt that it will make getting 10s much more difficult. 2019 cards stayed steady from January to April and then had a huge drop-off in May. PSA, wouldn't buy a company of this size without at least having a test run with the software. If we can't get as many PSA 10s as we did in the past, how does this affect our strategy going forward? All right, welcome back to another episode of the Powers Sports Memorabilia Show. I'm your host, Matt Powers. Thank you again for joining me. Please visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. Also give me a follow over there on Instagram, @PowersAutographs. Well, is PSA grading cards much tougher in 2021 than in years past? Before I jump into the data, I want to tell you a quick story that I think most of you have probably experienced with PSA at some point. All right, I got my latest submission back from them. This was an 80 card submission with the 45-day turnaround time that took about a year to get back. And about a quarter of the cards I sent in were all of the same exact card, the LeBron James 2018 Panini Revolution. And when I got it back, the first 18 were all PSA 9s, and the last 5 were PSA 10s. And when you get your cards back from PSA, they send them back to you in the exact order that you sent them in. Okay, that's how they make sure that you get the exact cards that you sent them. But to have 18 9s in a row, the statistical odds of that happening aren't very great. And also on a modern card, getting 78% PSA 9s is just odd. It should typically be the other way around, mostly PSA 10s. Now this begs the question, is PSA grading cards tougher now? And if they are, how does this affect our strategy going forward? Collectors Universe, that's PSA's parent company, purchased Genamint in April of 2021, which according to their website is an automated machine grading valuation in provenance of sports cards, coins, stamps, comics, art, and more. So basically they have software now that can help them in grading these cards. Now, while I'm not sure if PSA was using this software on these particular cards, these LeBron James 2018 Panini Revolution, there's no doubt that it will make getting 10s much more difficult. Now, before I jump into how this affects our strategy going forward, I want to share with you some interesting statistics from Genamint.com, which is the PSA submission group that I use. Jared Landris from there was kind enough to share some of these statistics on recent PSA submissions that he got back. Now, please note that the dates I'm going to be mentioning in just a minute are from when the grades popped, not from when they were submitted. All right. So here's the data from Genamint.com. All right. For cards from a 2021 set, all right, these are cards that were printed here in 2021 that were sent off to PSA for grading. All right. The percentage of cards submitted that received a PSA 10 in May was 37.5%. All right. PSA 9s, 62.5%. This, of course, is the only submission data for 2021 cards, since there has only been about 6 months so far this year to submit and receive cards back from the 2021 year. All right. But as you can see, it's a pretty low PSA 10 population there. All right. So for cards from a 2020 set, from January to May 2021, so grading in 4 of the 5 submissions, the PSA 10 rate got harder and harder. From 64.38% in January down to 38.85% in May. The PSA 9 rate in the same time frame went from 30.82% to 53.08%. 2019 cards stayed steady from January to April and then had a huge drop-off in May at 25.9% PSA 10 rate. Okay, right after the purchase of Genamint there in late April. 2018 cards, They hit a low this year in May as well at 33.45% PSA 10 rate, down from a high of 56.96% in April. So as you can see, it just isn't 1 year that was graded tougher. The sample size was roughly about 3,000 cards per month, which is what Jared said he receives back from PSA on average each month. Now, why is this happening? Here are two of Jared's main points that he talked about when he shared these statistics. Now, Jared's been around for the sports card hobby for a long time, and he always has some interesting insights. Number one from him is graders are seeing the same cards over and over again and causing them to look for certain things that potentially they were missing before. Certain issues that they see with the centering or with the surface that maybe they just missed out on last when they were grading previous cards. And number two, I guess on his part, although PSA hasn't publicly stated so, for ultra modern cards, they have started using automation and AI. And he did bring up a good point that PSA, wouldn't buy a company of this size without at least having a test run with the software. Now, was that test run done in late March or early April, and that contributing to the big drop-off in PSA 10s? That could definitely be the case. Now, is this the new normal for PSA grading? Will PSA 10s be tougher to get? Now, if they are using this new software already, my guess is definitely yes. Now, if we can't get as many PSA 10s as we did in the past, how does this affect our strategy going forward? Now, first off, what PSA does, if and when they reopen in July, it could change some of this information here. But for example, if their lowest submission price is $100, then that'll definitely affect what people do. But for this example, let's just assume they, drop their pricing back to close to what it was before they closed down. Cards currently graded as PSA 10s will almost, certainly increase in value due to tougher grading standards, and especially cards with a low pop or numbered cards. Also, historically tough to grade cards, ones with a very low PSA 10 percentage will also increase in price. Also, with those tough to grade cards, most likely they will see a price jump in PSA 9s, as we can assume most historically tough to grade cards coming out will potentially be 8s or even lower with this new software. Now, if you can't afford a PSA 10 of a tough to grade card, then picking up on an affordable PSA 9, might not be a bad idea. PSA 9s for modern cards, if priced right, could also be solid pickups, given that a PSA 9 might be the new norm for that particular card. Now, for ungraded cards, you are going to really have to be sending in cards to PSA that you are 100% confident that those are really going to be a 10. You're really going to have to study that surface and make sure that card is perfectly centered. Which ones you send into PSA will most likely be determined by PSA's grading cost and what PSA 10s sell for that particular card. It's still to be determined there because we don't have PSA's reopening pricing just yet. While yes, PSA is currently the king of all grading card companies, I see people gravitating away from them for a couple different reasons. All right, number one, people want 10s on their cards. I mean, everybody wants to see that 10. Nobody wants 9s for the most part. While yes, a PSA 9 can sell well, an SGC or even maybe a CSG might start carrying more weight. And number two, people want to get their cards back fast. My experience using SGC and also CSG so far has been that they just do that. They definitely do that well. I've got my cards back in a very reasonable time. Very happy with the turnaround time with those two. And number three, people for the most part, they want cheap grading. Again, it all depends on what PSA's new pricing will be. But I find it hard to imagine that PSA is not going to be the most expensive grading service on the block. The PSA views themselves as a premium grading company, and they will definitely be the most expensive one. BGS 9.5 cards, I would definitely anticipate a nice bump from them. I would think that most people would prefer a BGS 9.5 over a PSA 9. And lastly, SGC and CSG 10s, they may see a little bit of a price increase. I mean, not as much as the BGS 9.5, as Beckett is still number 2 behind PSA. But most people, they do like getting those 10s. I mean, I know I love getting 10s. I hate 9s. I hate 9.5s. I like to see that nice 10. One interesting note is if PSAs in the future will mark slabs that have been graded with the new technology. I think that would be something that will definitely increase value on some certain cards. What if a card like, for example, the Michael Jordan 1986 Flair PSA 10 gets graded with the new technology? Will that make that card graded as a 10 more valuable than one graded without that technology? I would definitely think so, especially if that card passes the eye test, if it has perfect centering, and the human eye also agrees with the software grading. I definitely think that card will be way more valuable than a card graded just by a human. Again, appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys like this video. Hope you guys like the insight into the PSA 10 statistics here. I was definitely shocked to see that the grading has gotten tougher, but that's kind of what people were saying, though. But it's nice to have some statistical data to be able to at least back up some of the claims that people have been saying. Again, always appreciate you guys watching. If you guys like these sorts of videos, again, feel free to like and subscribe. Definitely always appreciate it. Visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. And also give me a follow over there on Instagram, @PowersAutographs. And I will see you on the next episode.